Welcome back to another Money Show. Thank you so much for being with us. As always, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your weekend, or as the kids do, listening to us on podcasts. You can find us on Google and what is it, Anthony? I don't know these things, Amazon and all these.
Spotify, Google Play, or Apple Play. I don't know.
See,
You
even the
go
young
to
people
listen to
don't know.
podcasts, you'll find it.
Just Google our name and you'll find us, or DuckDuckGo, or whatever search engine you use. Anyway, we're glad you're with us. I have been talking a lot lately about the YouTube channel. Doug has added these shorts. And I have noticed that George Carlin is by far the leader with over 1,500 views. but we're our video, Anthony, or our short is getting a little bit of traction.
Thank you to you, because we don't know how to do any of that stuff. So we do appreciate all of your help. But that is not why we are here today. We are here to talk about this, the union talks and the strikes in Hollywood, right? You're kind of our insider in that.
It's fun because, I first of all love the show. Like, I've liked it from the beginning. I've been involved since last September. So I've always dug what you guys are doing and talking about these things that the media is not talking about into what I think are things that are being purposely not talked about. And I see the distraction of it all. If you mentioned George Carlin. He saw the distraction of all. He said it was just a circus and you're watching, but they want to keep us fighting with each other. But why? Well, it's because there's little things that are happening that you guys are reading about and exposing that really are those things. Like, they don't get it because they're screwing us. I mean, from that time when Carlin and that piece, he was predicting the future. Vanishing overtime, vanishing pension, overworking and underpaying. It's all happening. And we're all just kind of passively taking it, right? I could say different words. And I'm sure Jim, the unbelievable producer, would.
We'll have him beep
if I do curse in this, Jim, let's not put that through the compliance, because it's going to happen eventually. And
do you know what show you're on, Doug? You can say whatever you want. People expect it from the show.
At least you can put it up that way for sure. I've been sharing articles with you guys, and you guys share them with me, and it's been kind of fun because I do have other groups of people that, we kind of have similar interests. So I think over a month ago, I sent you guys an article about the writer's strike, which had been happening since May. And I think we were 40 days into it. No one's really talking about it. I am not an actor or a writer. So let me put that out there first. I'm a producer, or I was a producer. Now I produce radio and I do YouTube, whatever my job is, digital marketing for these great clients and financial advisors out there. But the majority of my career has been working in television production as a contract worker. And even when I entered the business, I was at UCF and I worked, on various PA jobs. You took whatever you can get. You're making $400 a week and $500 a week. I knew I wanted to move to New York. Moved to New York, and that's where I got a job on the Montel Williams show. That was a PA job that actually turned into an associate producer job. And we can go into more. That's why I didn't want to go into me, because I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be
the history. That's kind of what we want to show, is that, I know you're not necessarily in this life now, but those that are, what are they experiencing? What's going on with this?
Right. So, bottom line is, through my career, and it eventually had to go to LA if I wanted, you are working as a contractor. You are working. When I started at Montel, I got insurance. My dad said, you don't take a job without insurance benefits. It was a different time. Don't you even dare thinking about taking a job without insurance benefits. So they had that. And a couple of the shows I worked after, I had a show called Dr. Keith Ablow's show. And he was this big show they did in Rockefeller Center. We were on 30 Rock. We were down the hall from Brian Williams, and Saturday Night Live was a couple play, above. It was this big thing. It turned out to be this. I'm working 80 hours a week. There's no overtime. At least I had benefits. This goes on through my career. Okay. And I managed to work my way up and make more. However, that's the average person that works in television, that works in film. They're not. You think Jennifer Lawrence and Meryl Streep is Hollywood. They're not. This demonized word of Hollywood, representing tens of thousands of workers in an industry, being demonized to the term Hollywood, as if I know Meryl Streep, or as if I know Steven Spielberg. They're not this evil entity. There are people like me. There are a ton of PAs I made $575 living in New York City as a PA for Montel Williams. When I moved out to LA, I knew there was more opportunity out there. I hated daytime television. It was all doom and gloom. I wanted to do better than that, as Anthony says on the show. I'm part of the media. I don't want to add to the disease. I want to add to the cure. So I went out there because I reference my dad a lot. He's no longer with us, but he was a big influence for me and was very supportive of me because he knew I liked this kind of stuff. After really considering getting out of the business after some really rough years, the 2008 crisis happened during this. I was unemployed for a while in New York, and so I wanted to be, a comedian. And I lived in New York during that time and lost all my savings, but at least I had a great year during, Occupy Wall Street. So anyway, that bottom line is like my hatred for. I don't hate America. I love America. Don't ever put that in there, Jim.
That's our clip.
Clip of the week. Doug hates us, hates the country.
Yeah, I don't. And I don't hate a political party either. And I don't hate someone with different viewpoints as me. It's just that where this is all headed with the extremism. And I think a lot of us are the silent majority that are kind of stayed in the middle. I didn't want to, lose family members or friends over that, and I don't strongly believe in one side. I don't, I believe
because you're a critical thinker. You're an adult. You're doing things how you're supposed to, like you said, most of us.
And that was life before. Anyway, I digress. I work unscripted, so I've never been in a union. They tried to unionize reality producers. The WGA striked in 2008, coincidentally, and got nothing for it. So that was the last talks of organizing a union for reality and docu-series. And basically, it's called unscripted TV. Talk shows, court shows, docu-series, reality series. Sorry, I'm cutting production right now, but I feel like I've been talking for the last 10 minutes, and I want to talk more of a conversation. Maybe I should get to the point earlier.
Let's keep rolling. Jim will do his magic.
So I'm not in this. My wife is. When I emailed you guys, it was in June, but since May 3rd, the writers have been on strike. No one's talking about it. I was following it until this last week when the Screen Actors Guild went on strike. When they went on strike, people start paying attention, but no one really cares because you're Hollywood. And these screen actors they make so much money. They do not. Most of them make scale. Most of them, sure, they make $1,500 a day for scale, but if you only work 10 days, 6 months, which some of them do, you're waiting tables.
It's a tough life. If you're not Meryl Streep, it's a really tough life for actors. But I think it's just kind of showing unity, right? That they're striking together. So it's not just the actors, it's not just the writers. I want to hear why you think it's important, because I have my own ideas on why I think it's important, and I don't think they really align with yours.
Got it. Okay. So do you feel it's the writers or the actors or both that should not be striking right now?
Neither. I think my opinion is that this industry isn't special necessarily. I think every industry is being undercut. I think you get the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musks of the world, but they weren't the essential workers during 2020. It was people on the bottom lines. Those were essential. The people that actually do the work. So you have executives making all the money. You have people, significantly more people not making money, doing all of the work and not being paid for it, while profits are skyrocketing, but they're constantly laying people off. So I think in terms of being upset and striking, I agree with it. I think it's fine. I think it should be pretty much every industry right now. However, digging deeper into this, I think some of what I'm seeing on this is that part of the strike is they're trying to prevent AI from taking over. And I get AI is not good enough yet to take over everything, but I don't think this is 30, 40 years out before it's good enough to replace a writer. It's years, a few years out. This stuff, compounds very quickly. So, and I'm not opposed to individuals using AI to help. But what's to stop producers from just getting rid of a writing staff, having an AI write, and then having a person to punch it up? So instead of having 10 writers, you have one.
Part of of what it is. I mean, the writers are asking, hey, we need 6 writers in this writer room, because now there's one. There should be 1 writer per episode with 1 writer's assist. These are things these guys have been used to for their whole career. So we always talk about income stream. So say you're working in an industry and you're used to making $100,000 a year, used to making this and having this, and then all of a sudden someone said, okay, we're cutting that salary in half. You're making $48,000 right now. How are you going to supplement that money? What are you going to do? These guys, they work weekly. So when before they used to get residuals because they got a certain amount. If this movie made a certain amount at the box office, then they got this percentage. The base pay isn't really that much. The ones that really succeed are the people that write hits, write a really successful movie. And the average writing salary is $69,000 a year. Average writer in Hollywood. They're working on shows. They're writing movies. That's before. Now, the actors were mad at the writers. They said, you're striking again? And the writer said, yeah, we are, because we're getting completely screwed here. Because these streaming services that are now replacing the theaters are now not offering residuals. And it doesn't matter how many times someone downloads something on Netflix or views it. If you accounted that to movie dollars and different people buying a ticket for a movie, these writers would be making what they were making before. Yeah. But studios are not. Netflix Studios is one of the biggest studios in the world. You don't understand that now. Yeah. They were one of the first streamers. They did all that, and they realized an industry that was completely moving away from the theaters. They're going to jump on it for whatever it is. Did you know that Netflix, Orange is the New Black, those actors, even after the first season and even during filming the first season, they were waiting tables, and because they made scale, and they continued to make.
What does
scale
that mean?
Go back. Nothing. That movie scale is like, it depends on how, if you're a guest star, if you're a co-star, it's a minimum of what you can make a day. So if you're a guest star in something, you have to make $1,300 for that day of work. I don't know the numbers, and I'm also not an expert.
It was kind of a base minimum. It's not like they were getting paid for the success of the show.
Something becomes successful and they sell it to USA Network, and you're an actor on Modern Family. You didn't make anything when Modern Family was on ABC. You made scale, but it was in your contract that if they sell this to syndication, you're going to make X, Y, and Z amount of money. Now, everyone's not making Friends money. I'm talking about shows that you see that made it. Modern Family, that was a hit. And it's a hit in syndication. The Office, those guys are making tons. That doesn't exist anymore. And the streamers aren't paying it. So what they're looking to do is not, I need more money. It's like, the world is changing so quickly. We need to stop. This is what happened in 1980. The last time the SAG and the WGA decided to unionize, it was because VCRs were starting to take off. And all of a sudden, all these VCRs are making, all these companies are making money off of videotapes, and the actors and directors and the writers and the actors were not seeing that money. So they striked, and they won because people are consuming this. You watch entertainment every night, every day. These people are not, as I'm saying again, they're not these multimillionaires that are like,
they're just regular working class.
They're not in the NFL. They're not making this. And residuals, as you know, people in the insurance sales industry, they make residuals. What if you took that away from them? What if you said, oh, you know what, that book that you're still doing that you don't get it no more. Sorry.
You do realize, Doug, that's the way of the world. I mean, I've been saying forever, there's nothing left but the haves versus the have-nots. My fear, and depending on how much time we have, I want to talk about whether unions are good, unions are bad, whether or not, these are essential workers, which obviously you say they are. A lot of people are like, these rich people, they don't understand scale. They don't understand the writers versus Meryl Streep and Tom Cruise. The way of the world is getting rid of people. So this strike, I mean, I guess it's good that the Screen Actors Guild joined the writers, because I don't know that it's going to work. If you have a select few people that are making all this money and they don't have to give the residuals, why would they? I mean, I've been concerned that at your local Walmart and Lowe's and Home Depot and McDonald's and Wendy's, they're putting in kiosks. Those are taking away jobs. those are people that are not going to pay into my Social Security. But for the employer, those are kiosks that don't need workers' comp. They don't need vacation time. They don't have to take a bathroom break. So you're talking about these writers and the people that keep all this stuff together. Basically, they're going away. And even if this strike is successful, by the way, wasn't there a strike in 2007 or 2008? And that's what really kind of launched reality TV. So we know how that went. I mean, we know what it's like to watch reality TV. I make a little bit of fun of it, some of it, but
it's only going to get more now too, just so you know. And this is an
of course.
I
and Americans consume it. People in general consume it. So
well, they're not unionized, so they can continue to take advantage of those workers. They can't take advantage of these unions because, and that's another thing for me. And I want you guys to kind of this, like JR nailed it on the head. This is a microcosm of things to come. Because if you think AI is not going to replacing jobs, Anthony, you mentioned essential workers, the people that were at the supermarkets every day on COVID, they were heroes. You're 100% right. They're getting replaced by these self-help things. So those people aren't getting respect, and they're making, $20 an hour, just like a lot of just so you know, like a lot of people in Hollywood are making $20 an hour.
How does it end? How do you want it to end, Doug? Do you want it to go back to how it was, where everybody's important? Because I don't know that it will. A lot of what I talk about, I'm not an optimist. I'm not a pessimist. I'm a realist. And I'll tell you what, I certainly come off as a pessimist. So many things are so wrong. This is just another one of them. I mean, I don't want people not to make a living. I don't care what industry they're in. We're all important. But you've got a select few in this country and in this world that can make things happen. The golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules. And this is going to affect us. We are going to get more reality TV. And then somebody like me is going to say it's just going to dumb us down further. It's just going to make things worse in this country. I mean, Doug, you personally, what do you want to see happen? And do you think there's a chance of it happening?
All right, this is going to go back, and I don't know the answers. I don't at all. And I'm glad I mentioned Montel Williams before, because as hard as that show was and difficult as it was, I was so hooked on the fact that my message is getting out to millions of people. And I'd like to talk to you guys more of this, and we'll talk later. Now, Montel stayed on the air for 26 years. I don't have the exact number. I was already gone, but I was there for the last 3 of the last 5 seasons. And on his last episode, which was a big deal, he said, when I started my first, I said, I don't want to be a show that talks about the problems. I want to be a show that accepts that the problems exist and talk about answers. And when you look back on the stuff that I was putting out there, it was 2005, man. There was no social media. There was no real cable or streamers. These are people sitting at home that never would have heard these issues. You don't realize that 90s talk shows were like the reality show of 2007. That was before I was there, but they introduced our country to a lot of different opinions, and they used to boom. And then when they notice they fight all the time, that's when they take advantage and say, okay, this is going to make us so much more money on ads. People are watching people fight, just like on social media. And they did that. Montel switched back after Oprah. They all were guilty of doing it until the Jenny Jones murder. Look that up. Very interesting case. Taking advantage of people. So these people, the ads there was 7-8 million people watching a day, Oprah. There's probably 4 people watching The Voice, or 4 million watching The Voice today, because it's so scattered. So think about that impact. And he said it best. And he said, you know what? I stuck to it. There are problems, and I don't have any answers to them. But I can tell you, in my show, I am going to say the problems, and then we're going to focus on what we're going to do to change. So I love that you said that, JR, and I like that about your guys' show. You're helping people. You're helping people that are going to lose half of their income figure out a way for them to get that income up, because those people losing half their income, their lifestyle is done. You know how expensive it is to live in LA. They're moving back home, especially young people. They're moving back home and they're entering different fields, and they're over and set and done. They can't do what I did in my day. And that's sad that a whole industry could be taken out that way. Without a writer, you got nothing. Actors are expendable. Craft PAs are expendable. PAs, the makeup guy, all these people are expendable. The guy that came up with this thing that ended up being Shawshank Redemption is the writer.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to the AI thing, because I again, I think that's the single most important part of this. The studios are trying to buy the rights to people's images to use that as extras, like CGI extras. But my biggest concern is, well, you could do that with actors then. You could do that with writers, you can do that with that. But I think a portion, and you said this was, like third down the list on this, these negotiations, but they're trying to figure out how they're going to allow studios to handle AI. But to be able to replace these individuals with AI, that's my concern. Because again, it's not just this
Terrifying.
industry. This can be applied to anything. So if you have these unions discussions where they decide how they're going to use AI to implement and to help, but without replacing jobs, I think this could be a catalyst for how other industries use AI. And are we just going to see a massive amount of jobs loss? I mean, think of the US in the 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, manufacturing was huge here. And then people got replaced by robots. And then people got replaced by people in China.
And
Robots
job
and
roles
people in
shifted,
China.
right?
So
Job
it's
roles shifted. You have to, you got to roll with the times and shift job roles. And I don't think that's happening.
this is going to be a continuation of that. Now we're going to lose even more jobs in America, but how?
They say that background actors they make like $200 a day, 150. A lot of them wait tables and are bartenders, but they're aspiring actors going auditions. And they get lucky. They get in with a background company. And every day they go to a random one and they sit in the back and they eat food and they do things in the background. They don't say a thing and they make $200 and they get lunch and that's their day. Studios are trying to, on the first day they come in, have them sign away their rights and their images and allow that studio to use those images in perpetuity. So someone that was making $200 a day, $1,000 a week potentially, if they work 5 days a week, now they're asking them to, we're only going to give you $150. How much money is that studio making off of just that one thing? If you look at bottom line, how much do you think they'll be saving by doing that to people's lives?
Billions. They would say billions, because that's every single movie, it's every single TV show. And instead of having 5 to 10 to 20 background people at $200 a day, you buy their rights one time and then you recycle those for every
and they
movie
look
for the
real
next
because
decade.
they know that AI looks like crap. You put something in it, it's just like crazy face, and it's this because it's not there yet. But they have the technology to get it there, and they're not negotiating. They're not going, let me read you this, since we're coming up on the end. I want to read you quotes and how the industry is responding. Let's start with this from Deadline. This is quote, "The end game is to allow things to drag on until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses," a studio executive told Deadline. Acknowledging the cold as ice approach, several other sources reiterated the statement. One insider called it a cruel but necessary evil. The studios and streamers next think financially strapped writers would go to WGA leadership and demand they restart talks. This could be a very cold Christmas for everyone. In that context, the studios and streamers feel they would be in a position to dictate most of the terms of a possible deal, but they're not budging on certain issues, one being AI. So
they're in control. I mean, everything we talk about on the show, and you hit it, Doug. I mean, Montel Williams, I'm not just going to give problems. I'm going to give solutions. We say that all the time. We want to help you, one person, one couple, one family at a time. The world is going the wrong way on so many fronts. How do we deal with it? We talk all the time about debt management, hard assets, insurance companies.
Be prepared for when this happens, and don't rely on one company. Rely on yourself and multiple income streams. That's what I love about what you guys are saying, because people need to enterprise these actors. They could enterprise themselves on YouTube. They can.
Can they win?
Very, very talented people on their art.
Can they win though? Do they have a chance at continuing business as normal in Hollywood or wherever they are? Or are we really seeing the future right now for entertainment?
We have to roll with the tides. Just like the times back on the road, we have to learn to roll. This is happening, and how do we roll? You enterprise yourself when it comes to them. When it comes to other people and other industries, we just have to realize that we have so much more control if you just look at the tools around you. You have your own show that you reach so many people on YouTube and on the radio, and that you guys get your message out there. You just have any of these people who are producers and really they could go to YouTube and make their own stuff and completely bypass it. That's what's brilliant about YouTube is because they want to help you. The more they help you, the more they get, you get profits. It's almost like how you help your clients, right? The more you help them, it's beneficial for everybody.
Are you really going to bring Ken Fisher into this? Are we really at Ken Fisher?
YouTube has a ton of censorship issues too. But I get what you're saying. Like, I'm a big stand-up comedy fan, and a ton of my favorite stand-ups are going straight to YouTube because they're not making a ton of money on their Netflix specials or Prime, unless you're the Gaffigan, the Jim Jeffries, the Bert Kreischers, these big names already. But you get like Mark Norman, Sam Morril. These guys are just releasing it straight to YouTube because they're making their money on tour. So they're using this free vehicle just to get in front of people's faces so that they come out and then they buy tickets and they buy merch. And I think that's genius. But again, YouTube has its own set of issues too, right? There's no quite easy answer for anything social media based.
Well, just like you said about those comedians that are now taking advantage of podcasting. Theo Vaughn's one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
And he's selling out wherever he goes because they're making their money off of that. It's not like he's making his money just off you. People think you go on TikTok and I'm going to get all these 1,000 views and I'm going to make all this crazy money. First of all, TikTok will never pay you. Either will Instagram. You're wasting your time. At least YouTube, it's hard to get there and it takes a really long time, but you can get to the mountain. You just got to work hard at it. And
Can you get it there? Can you get another money show there? Can we monetize? How do we get in on this? How do we do our show?
Guys, you don't worry. It's so many people give up because it's all exponential. And then Anthony knows that about podcasts. You've talked about it a lot. It's always there forever. And it's only going to keep growing as time goes on. So you'll notice if you looked into really successful YouTube channels, they've been around for over 10 years. They didn't just happen. They had someone that persistently put out content. That's another thing about YouTube is because they know you got to persistently put out content. If you just stop, they're going to stop pushing your content and your show's dead. That's why podcasts are popular because you can do it. Your guys are perfect. And you get with such awesome producers as Jim and Sam and Matt and Ford, who is such a great marketer. And not only are you getting your business out there and you're connecting with people on a very important message, you're helping people. It's very genuine. And that's what you need nowadays because people want a happy life. I don't want my daughter growing up in this disgusting civil war of humanity that's taking place. I don't want that. So what's the result? Do I keep fighting with that guy that doesn't think like me because he's never going to think like me? Or if I try to find a mutual ground, the banks and the finance people who I used to love to criticize, and I didn't care who was in office, if they wore a blue hat or a red hat, I used to love to just rail. I was so mad after 2008. They derailed my life. So many of my friends lost their houses in Florida. These were investments that they thought they were going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars on, and then they lost their shirts. That's not fair. They were 28 years old. I was 28 years old then. And all these people that worked so hard to get these mortgages, they lost it. And no one was held accountable. So, you know what? I'm not going to say any bad words on here, but I have no sympathy for these corporations. I have no sympathy I don't. And you're right. We're not going to win. They're always going to win. But at least we're going to go down with the fight. And at least we're going to help the little guy and be a voice for these. I'm sorry, they're not evil. I know you're going to see on the media these Hollywood people. I mean, when I got my first PA job, I didn't sign a thing that said, Satan, I'm signing my life away to Satan and that I'm going to be part of this ritual cult that's out here. No, I'm getting a PA job, just like you were getting an internship or you were doing this. Like, what are you talking about? And all these people that now are out of work, like these caterers and accountants. My wife she works at an agency. She hasn't lost her job yet, but 5 people lost their job. And we got this great job where she can go to my daughter's, we don't work these crazy hours anymore and she can have a good life. But what if she loses her job now because of what's going on?
Everything is scary. Doug, you said we need to do something on the side and dig a little deeper on who you are and who we are. I want to do that. And I want to tease that with something. When I first met you, you had sent me a couple shows that Joe Rogan did. It's not on the air anymore. It was years ago. And you helped with those shows. And I want to talk about that because that's in my wheelhouse when you talk about, you know, the unknown. I'm a little bit of a tinfoil hat guy, in case you haven't noticed. So we have more to talk about. Unfortunately, we have run the clock down. So I thank you so much for taking time with us,
Thank
Doug.
you.
I mean, you
My
have been
pleasure. It was
amazing.
fun.